All right, class, settle down, settle down. We are once again in session for a new year of classes here at the Umbrella Academy. I am your professor, Alex. Welcome back for season 3, or year 3, as I call it.
Hey, it's me, the bad kid in the back of the class. I'm Justin. When are we going to get to the dancing? You know, the cool part of this class? Enough preamble. Let's dance.
I'm Pete.
And we are back for Umbrella Academy Season 3, Episode 1, Meet the Family, now live on Netflix. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out there, because we're pretty much almost immediately going to be jumping into spoilers. But picking up, let's do a little bit of a recap first.
Why don't we?
Let's shake things up here. Picking up on the end of the last season, the Umbrella Academy is finally back at their time, which, if I remember correctly, is 2019, so not necessarily 2022. Doesn't come up too much this episode. But when we last saw them, they walked into their home, saw Reginald Hargreaves there, and then saw that they had been replaced by some new students of the Sparrow Academy. Turns out when they went back in time, something changed. We don't know exactly what or how yet, but it looks like Reginald Hargreaves, as we start out here, adopted 7 other kids instead of the Umbrella Academy and raised them. They are an actually effective super team. They're also huge jerks. Ben is one of them, and he's alive, so that's interesting and really messing people up. And the Umbrella Academy has to deal with that. They get their asses handed to them by the Sparrow Academy in this episode and hide out at the Hotel Obsidian, which sounds very similar to a hotel that fans of Umbrella Academy may know something about. I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit. And by the end of the episode, there's a big ball of energy in the basement of the Academy that Mom is praying to. Marcus, who is the number 1 of the Sparrow Academy, disappears, and bad things are once again coming for the Umbrella Academy.
In my notes, I have it as a flying ball of lava.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, could be that. Could be.
I
Usually
wrote
doesn't
singularity / paradox ?
Ooh. Could be either one. I guess we'll see. Yeah. But
flaming ball of lava.
Before we get into the episode proper, though, it has been 2 years since Umbrella Academy was on Netflix. Very long time, a little less for us since we were recapping it after it had already launched. But what do you think about this premiere? I think, I know my feelings were I really didn't like the first season of the show, even though I liked bits of it and I liked a lot of the actors. Loved the second season of the show. So I was definitely hyped up getting into this. But how did you guys feel about it?
Well, first off, I just wanted to circle back. If you ever cooked a Hot Pocket too long, that kind of looks like the inside.
So maybe it's the inside of a Hot Pocket.
Yeah.
Somebody should ask Jim Gaffigan.
There you go.
I was about to say James Gandolfini, and I was like,
wow.
I bet he had his fair time with Hot Pockets as well.
Yeah. There was in the last scene of The Sopranos, originally, he was ordering a Hot Pocket. He was sitting there cutting it up with his knife and fork when they cut to black.
Hey, Toad, you gotta try these Hot Pockets. It's like a whole meal inside of a...
It's hot. It's a Hot Pocket. Why eat it with your hands? Don't burn your hands.
You guys interrupted my flawless Michael Imperioli impression.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, Pete, since you derailed it, what did you think?
I am hyped. It's great to be back. It's nice to see the gang again. And, I agree with Klaus, as per usual. It was just so great to see Ben. Let's stop all the fighting and get to the hugging. You know what I mean? Justin,
what about you?
This show is weird. Every season, I mean, it's weird in its content, but it's also just weird in general. It's the tone of this show. It's almost like a parody of itself. This episode specifically, as soon as Luther popped up, I was like, "Oh, are we gonna get dumb Luther?" And I was like, "Oh my god, it's all dumb." He's way too far gone to be like a hero of any kind. He's such a goober.
Come on.
I mean, I like him, but I just think it's funny how far these characters have gone away from even dealing with the people in front of them, any sort of reality. Klaus is just laughing at everything, and there's no real connection.
Klaus. I mean, that guy's a living legend.
So it is a little. I'm surprised about that tone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I, first of all, had a lot of fun watching this episode.
It's very fun.
Very goofy. I love the change that they had from season 1 to season 2. Season 1 took itself too seriously. In season 2, they really leaned into the actors, what they could do. Tom Hooper as Luther clearly is much funnier than he is as a romantic lead. And they're leading into that even more in this episode. But that's great to see. It's interesting to see like this flip of Elliot Page as Vanya now being kind of the one who's in charge and making moves here. That's fun too.
And I love Vanya's a badass in this, like top to bottom.
Also, I mean, come on, Footloose. I mean, that was just
so this was the thing. First of all, I lost it when they started doing the Footloose. That was fantastic that they were doing a dance battle. Like I was cackling with glee.
Oh my God, so enjoyable.
It kept going, and I was like, oh, right. Umbrella Academy loves playing the entire song, which is something that no other TV show does. Every other TV show is like a minute and a half tops. They're like, no, we have to play the whole thing. We have to go through the whole thing.
That is the thing about this show. The amount of real estate they just let stuff take up, and there's just so much like luxuriating in these scenes that are like the joke of Footloose is the joke of it, and then we didn't need to see all of that.
Oh, come on. It was so fun.
It was very fun. I'm just talking about purely from a production and like crafting point of view. It's like,
so as a line producer, you would have been like, all right, come on, we got to cut this scene down a little bit and move on.
Well, but there is something about Umbrella Academy, and from the jump of season 1, they're always taking extra time. They just like luxuriate in there from a plot point of view and like character moves. Like some stuff happens, but basically, they show up and they meet this team, and that's sort of it. And then they run away. Like
there's a lot of dickhead. Don't forget that part. I mean, they call each other dickhead a lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of wheelies that they do on this show, and it makes it it's fun, but it's very surprising to me because I would think it would start to pace up as we get into these later seasons because that feels like something that is you learn not to do less.
Well, and also particularly, I'm curious to see where this goes because the first season was all about like getting the band together. And there was a certain frustration, at least that I had in terms of like, come on, we don't need to watch everybody going off in different directions here. And then season 2, happily, they did that I remember us talking about being frustrated that, again, they were blown apart when they got to Dallas in different timelines, but they very quickly in the season got them back together here. Here, now that they are all together, now they're specifically refusing to do anything, you know? Except for Vanya. Like, Vanya is the one exception there, so I hope that's not something we luxuriate in this season because I don't want to see all refusal and no call. We got to the point where they were legit superheroes when they were saving Vanya from not the book depository, I guess the FBI headquarters last season. They had those great superhero moments for the rumor. So we don't need those across the board, but they've been through so much already. I want to see them working as a team. I want to see them coalescing this way. And a lot of this episode is really just, in my mind, spent showing how much better equipped for that sort of thing the Sparrow Academy is. Yeah. So then we'll have to see how they come back from that.
All right. Well, I disagree. I feel like we're having too much fun to complain. And I think this did a great job of like reintroducing everybody. The first part of the episode, I was like, wait, I've already seen this. What's going on?
I thought I had the wrong episode.
Me too. I was like, I had to check the email, be like, oh my God, am I watching the right thing? Like, but the fact that we got this fun reintroduction of the team that's almost fully together and we don't have Ben. So it's like this thing of like, we've got to get everybody together. And I'm glad that we're doing that. And I'm glad that they're going to include Ben in this because he was such a fun kind of revelation last season that we want more of. And I'm hoping that that's what we're going to get. But also we got so many.
Real quick on Ben, his sacrifice at the end of last season, I thought was just like a really big emotional touchstone.
It really was. And the fact that like, we got so many fun little parts through people's other powers, this other team that like, you know, as Alex is saying, we want to see them go up against and be able to be a good team I think that was cool that we got to kind of like see a dance sequence and see people's true loves and stuff. And Dolores, I mean, that was just some fun stuff. But I don't want them to be like immediately great because that didn't make sense to the thing. I think I don't think the whole season will be like this, but I'm glad we started it kind of where we left off and did a fun reintroduction by throwing a new twist in here. And when the guy got like the dad moments and the mom stuff, really, really cool.
I think the thing that I'm taking a little bit of exception to is, and I understand what you're saying, we don't need to see them just be like straight up superhero show because that's not why we're watching Umbrella Academy.
Exactly.
But I do think there's a level of shaving off their intelligence that's going on here just in terms of alternate timelines and things. Like them walking in, and it's immediately obvious from the end of season 2 to anybody who's watching it, oh, you're in an alternate timeline. And the fact that they're like, we don't understand what's going on here. This is our house. Get out of our house. None of this makes any sense. Is like, I think they're smarter than that, So it feels like the writers making them 20% dumber so that they can push forward with this. That also goes for, not to jump to another plot line, but Allison being like, I just want to get back to my life and calling her family and everything. And you're like, what are you doing? Things are going to be different. Why do you think everything is the same?
I agree. That specifically that phone call, I was like, there's no way that this is connecting to the people you want to. Like, it's not how alternate timelines work. But I don't know why they're playing it that way,
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I think we'll see. We'll see why they're playing it that way. It seems like a plot point.
I don't think we'll see anything. This is the one and only episode.
Yeah. Famously, Netflix drops their whole one episode of a season.
Well, we kind of skipped over them a little bit, but let's talk about the Sparrow Academy because most of the first section is their introduction. Like you guys said, we start off with these two kids kissing on a subway. The particles infect her. She becomes pregnant, gives birth. It's the same day as the Umbrella Academy. I think this is giving birth to Ben. Is the idea, right?
That's exactly what I think too.
And the reason right there with you guys, same thing. I was like, what is happening here? But I think the idea was the original first scene of the show, though it's never been clarified, was probably Vanya being given birth to, and here we're seeing Ben given birth to. So maybe it points to something just in terms of the importance of Ben this season in terms of kicking off with that specifically. But we do meet them over the course of a montage. We find out about their powers and who they are. Obviously, they're being set up as the villains here, but how do you feel about them? Any in particular jumping out to you at the moment?
I like all of them. We talked about how self-serious season 1 was. So the Sparrows are almost like the season 1 Umbrella Academy. They're fighting the past versions of themselves or slightly alternate versions. So I think that's cool. And I like cool Ben, Marcus. R.I.P. I think he gets pretty much wiped out at the end.
By the hot pocket, I believe is what we decided.
Yes, by what we're calling the hot pocket.
Same thing happens to the roof of my mouth whenever I cut it up with my knife and fork and jam it into.
Your tongue is like the mom worshiping at the hot pocket altar in your mouth.
Stop, please. Stop.
I really liked Jamie. I thought in like what that's going to be. Alfonso, the guy with a sort of messed up face, which the way his
Jamie is with the spitting dream powers or whatever it is, right? Yeah, that was super fun. I like their relationship too. That was set up very nicely and neatly. Like I think overall with the sequence, they did a really good job of setting up who they are, what their powers are, and what their general personalities are, as far as we can tell.
I'm a sucker for a floating cube, so,
Yeah, you love Cube. Christopher is his name.
Yeah, Chris,
Very fun. Very fun, like little physical twist there because you expect it to be another person that it's just a floating cube. Good times.
And just like the scene where he's like running and throwing knives at the cube is just such a hilarious, like, stupid but fun.
Stupid, so ill-equipped to do.
It's just like, oh my God, I loved it.
And then Sloane, I think, we didn't sort of get too much in her head, but I like her as an instant romantic interest for Luther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was funny.
That was great. That was very cute, that moment in the middle of the fight there, and very, like, classic Luther. Pete, that said, you probably, how do you feel about Luther and Sloane potentially being a thing, given Luther and Emily Raver Lampman, who I don't remember her character's name other than the rumor. What's her actual name in the show? Allison. Oh my God. Wow. Total blank there.
Didn't you say it like a minute ago?
I sure did.
It's all right.
Hot Pocket is working its way up to my brain right now.
That's the problem when you start worshiping the Hot Pocket.
Yeah, but Pete, Luther and Allison has been one of the big romances of the show over the past 2 seasons, despite the fact that they're brother and sister. How do you feel about a potential new romance with Luther?
Well, I think
Sloane?
That's why we had that phone call, because it was like, remember, Allison has this other family. We can't kind of keep going with this. It's a little weird with the brother and sister thing, even though they're technically not.
Well, she has 2 families, right?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah. She has her husband back in the past. And then she has her husband and her daughter, though I think her husband is estranged at this point in the present.
Right. Yeah. Because she used the rumor powers on the daughter, right? And he was like, that's not cool.
Yes, I think that's correct.
But if they are sort of time traveled out of the picture here, I think she's maybe ready to find a new husband.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but I just think that, like, it's interesting, the seeds that we're planting here. I just want to know why Ben isn't cool with them when he saw them. You know what I mean? Like, why it was so like, hey, let's all fight. And Ben wasn't kind of like,
Well, it's a different Ben. It's a Ben from an alternate timeline who doesn't know them at all.
Okay, well, that makes sense then. I thought maybe because it was like Ghost Ben, or there was different things, because the way they were talking to him made it seem like, why don't you know who we are?
That was another one of those things. I totally get what you're saying, Pete, but that was another one of those things that we were talking about earlier, where it's like, Umbrella Academy, why are you not getting this? Because that's Ben grew up his entire life not knowing them at all, as far as we know, never meeting them. Maybe there'll be some sort of like hilarious double thing happening later down the line, potentially. But as is, this is a different Ben. We have not met this Ben before.
Well, it seems like it's similar to the Ben that we know.
It is played by the same actor.
So there we go.
Same actor, same character, same powers.
It's a little confusing then. So because
I think it's actually not confusing, is what I think we're saying here.
Pete's confused though, so
I am very confused. Yeah. But I do like to me, when it comes to like siblings and stuff like that, like, and these kind of characters hanging on to this ranking, which seems really stupid, but like to brothers or sisters or siblings where it's like, I'm the oldest or I'm the, whatever. And they kind of like hang on to these meaningless titles. So it was very funny to me to see him like, you're not even a number 1. You know what I mean? Like that whole kind of like pre-meeting where like Vanya's like, yo, you don't know who you're fucking with. I've like destroyed the world twice. So like, get a hold of your shit.
Yeah. I mean, this whole season, here's my my theory on it. It has big D3, the Mighty Ducks energy. So do I need to elaborate on that?
You might need to elaborate just a little bit.
I'm sure everybody knows this, but famously, Mighty Ducks formed in the Orig. They won their league. In the second movie, D2, they faced off against the best hockey players in the world. They went up against Iceland, defeated Iceland, became like the best hockey team.
This is a group of 12-year-olds, right?
Yes.
Wow.
I think that they aged.
And they beat professional hockey players from Iceland.
Well, of similar age. And then in D3.
Okay.
Yeah. These are also, do we need to clarify these are fictional movies, not documentaries?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, because the way they shot those. Emilio was playing himself, I will say.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But in D3, after they had conquered the world of hockey, they go to like a prep school and they have to face off varsity. So, and it was like, how is varsity any better than all of the best hockey players in the world that you just defeated? And so they've saved the world multiple times, and they come through and they're like, oh, these guys who are literally our equals. And it just is very much, it's such an interesting sort of sidestep. And obviously we show them getting absolutely thrashed here.
Right. Well, it's their equals that's work together and know how to work as a team. We're not quite to that level yet, or they're more powerful. They just don't know how to work together.
There's another dynamic here that I think is kind of interesting and I'm a little confused by, and I guess maybe we'll find out more as the episodes go on, and that's how Reginald Hargreaves works in this alternate reality.
Yeah, it seems like he's not in charge.
Well, so the first scene, and I know this is just repeating what we saw at the end of the second season, so maybe they didn't have it wholly planned out at that point. He does seem to be in charge, and he does seem to be the Reginald we know. And certainly my supposition would be he is the Reginald that we also met back in 1963, because that's how time works. Yeah. So he's that guy, but like Pete's saying, we get that scene where they're all working out, and he is supplicating himself to number one. So what happened there? What is going on there that changed those things? That's something that I think ties back to what we were saying earlier about the jockeying for position. The Umbrella Academy always jockey for position because that's what Reginald Hargreaves drilled into them. If Reginald Hargreaves is essentially working for the Sparrow Academy, why are they still like that? I think these are questions we'll have to answer. I'm not saying this is a problem. It's just things that I'm curious about.
Well, I think like he has more confidence in this team, so he can just be like, go do your shit.
I think it was more like, because this team is the more evolved team of our team, they're like, hey, we're not going to take anything from you. You're just an old guy. We have powers and like run shit, so you're going to listen to us.
Is that the same thing that they did to Emilio Estevez in D3? Like after they had already won twice, they were like, we don't need you anymore?
In some ways, yes. Back in D1, the reason he got into the coaching position is because he got caught drunk driving, which is something that Disney movies did back then. Less so now, where your hero is drunk driving and is forced to be around children after that.
It would be kind of funny, haha, like pretty hilarious. You know, he got written off of the Mighty Ducks show because he refused to get vaccinated. And he got replaced. So what if they did that again? Like he died in a drunk driving accident. Like that would be a fun callback, right?
Way to go dark and really turn it
for D4, bro.
Yeah.
Did they get up to D20? Because that would be pretty fun.
Not yet, but there's still time. There's still time in our lives.
Wow. Not a lot, to be honest.
I mean, I feel that way. I think it's very funny that there's a side plot in this episode. We've just identified the flaming ball of lava as a Hot Pocket. There's a character named Lester Pocket.
Yes.
Who's in this episode, who's in this show, and is not related to the Hot Pocket. He's the Cold Pocket.
Yeah. That's weird. To me, he strikes me as
if you're going to have a Hot Pocket, you got to have a Cold Pocket. It's the only thing that can destroy the Hot Pocket.
I don't know if you guys, obviously we don't find anything about him other than he's packing bags with numbers on them, which presumably are for the Sparrows or the Umbrella Academy or something like that. In his briefcase, he's riding on a bus. He listened to some bee sounds.
He makes some sick mixtapes, which I did the same. I made that same mix for the girl I had a crush on in high school.
She must have thought you were a psychopath.
Yeah.
Also, here's some bee sounds for my honey.
That bee
You're
noise
the bee's
was
knees,
not
is the idea.
Relaxing. It was really freaking me the fuck out.
Do you think he was trying to relax with the swarming?
It seemed like it. He was like, yes, swarming bees.
To me, it feels like he occupies the same place as Mary J. Blige and the other guy in the first season of the Swedes in the second season, where it's some sort of external force that's coming into the show and going to do something.
Slowly making its way.
Yeah,
Mary
exactly.
J. Blige, man. That was some fun stuff.
Yeah, Cha-Cha and Cha-Cha.
Cha-Cha and Real Smooth.
And I don't think so. Is it Cold Pocket a donut?
Jelly donut?
No. If you wanted to say like an apple fritter, like a cold apple fritter, maybe, because you got to have that center that, you know what I mean? Something that can get really cold.
A cold pocket is taking marinara out of the fridge and putting it in your pants.
Yeah, it's a prank. Classic. I just cold pocketed my teacher.
Yeah, you open up your pants and you dump some cold ragu down there. That's a cold pocket.
You sneak a bunch of pasta sauce into their coat, so when they reach for their keys, you got cold pocketed.
Couple of other elements we should definitely talk about here. One, as we hinted at earlier, our gang goes to the Hotel Obsidian, which seems very much like a messed up version of the Chelsea Hotel, I would say, from New York. Old hotel.
Real New York.
Yeah, real New York, where just like rockers would hang out and messed up shit would happen all the time. So that's fun, but it definitely seems like a reference to Hotel Oblivion, which is a storyline in the Umbrella Academy comics. Yeah. So I was surprised to see it not being Hotel Oblivion, but Hotel Obsidian.
Maybe
there must be copyright. Probably not a copyright, but there must be some sort of Hollywood reason, though, Pete, I think is what you're saying. Like, is there another movie called Hotel Oblivion or something? That
I thought maybe they were going to go to the John Wick Hotel where they could just go and fight people. And
maybe.
That's where all the murders hang out and stuff.
I did like all the details of that hotel. It also seems to be something that's like out of time a little bit, given all the other residents that we see there. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Bellhop was great. All of the residents were great. The other thing on a slightly more serious note that I wanted to bring up is there definitely feels like, to be frank, going to the season, this thing hanging over it of how are they going to handle Elliot Page? Because we know Vanya is going to become Victor at some point. Obviously, that doesn't happen in the first episode. There's a little hint here, I thought, where Allison says to Vanya, "You're a good sister," and they pause and hang on Vanya for a moment as Vanya looks out the window and kind of like thinks about it a little bit. And that to me seemed like the beginning of the storyline. But very curious to see how they're going to handle that. Hopefully well. I think they'll probably handle it well.
Well, and I like it already in that it wasn't just like an energy enveloped Vanya and then she was Elliot, like basically like I thought they might do some like finger snap and then it's moved on.
Or so if time they're travel, something or other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they're actually going to like sort of make it part of the story, I much prefer that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that spins out.
Yeah, me too. Any other moments from the episode that you guys want to? We should probably also mention that Lila shows up again.
Yes,
throws a knife at Diego, and the reveals in a stunning crossover that his son is Ashtray from Euphoria. Spoilers for Euphoria, Ashtray died there and then popped up here. Obviously, it's an altered timeline.
Wow.
But very exciting to see Ashtray.
Hotel Oblivion is real deal, man.
Yeah.
Obsidian, don't blow the copyright, Hollywood, Pete.
Sorry about that.
No,
but that's like you guys have kids, and that's how it works, right? You go to a creepy hotel, and then someone gives you a kid.
Well, they throw a knife
in creepy hotels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Usually twins.
Oh, man.
What do you think about this turn, though, that Lila is dropping off a teenage son, Stanley, with Diego?
I think it's fun. I mean, giving Diego a problem to deal with is always that's sort of where his energy is most often. When he's like staring at his robot mom in a weird way, I'm like, it's not, we get that. Like with him being like, I got to take this kid around, that's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, classic Diego. How's he going to get himself out of this one?
I do like having Lila back as well. I hope she didn't just pop in to drop off Stanley.
Yeah.
Super fun addition.
I like her energy. I liked the image of the two ladies holding cats walking down the hall in Hotel Obsidian. I like those little visual things that they do so well in the show are always fun to watch.
Yeah. A couple of other things that I noticed that I thought were fun which one is it that does the spitting again? What's her name?
Her name is Jamie.
Jamie, when Jamie spits on 5 and he has the vision of Dolores that Pete mentioned earlier and starts making out at her, the quick cutaway to her seeing 5 making out with the air saying, "Are they all perverts?" Very funny.
Great. Mm-hmm. Plus the Dolores, like the way the CGI on that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Also, I think Reginald was saying this to Klaus when he was like, "Which one are you? Scruffy? Fatty?" I don't know. That was a fun line. That made me laugh. What were you going to say, Pete?
The way that the number 5 talked to Dolores, the whole Italian bit and the back and forth was just beautiful. It was just really beautiful.
And again, something that most shows would treat as like a 20-second cutaway, they did a whole go around on it. It's very funny. No other show does it.
Any other moments? Any other moments here? I think we mentioned the line, I ended the world twice. You're just meat in spandex, that Vanya says to Marcus. Badass line. Very
badass.
Cool.
How about brothers who don't eat like barn animals? And then they both looked up like, with food hanging out. I mean, this is just fun, silly stuff.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Lots of fun stuff. Before we wrap up here, who got top marks this episode, though? Justin, you want to go first? Who got top marks this episode?
Yeah, I think Luther's the character that stuck out to me as like, back and worse than ever. And that made me smile when he came through and was instantly crushing on a Sparrow Academy member and then very bad at every other aspect of their current situation.
And Pete, what about you? Who gets top marks this episode?
I'm going to go with Hotel Obsidian. I feel like it's a own character of the show. It really feels like another part of this thing. So I'm looking forward to, big character development there.
I'm going to give it up for Vanya. Thought this was a great episode for Vanya. Yeah. Super badass stuff, as we mentioned. And I'm excited to see how this storyline develops. And for all of you out there,
quickly also say more Klaus, please. Just more
Klaus.
More Klaus monologues, more just more Klaus.
Yeah, what's Klaus's deal this season? We don't know yet.
Yeah,
he's pissing out a window, man. That's all we know.
Yeah, that whole bit.
It's hard to carry on for the whole season.
That was just hilarious. Great
stuff.
Yeah.
If you'd like to support our podcast, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast on YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Umbrella Academy. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Podcademy on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, class dismissed.
Oh, my God.
There it is. I guess an olive is a cold pocket.
Oh, interesting. Okay.